I'm really excited because today we're going to be talking to my good friend Austin Linney, who is a master when it comes to networking in real estate. The man has done over 200, maybe 300 podcasts in the last year alone. He is an animal when it comes to podcasting, to creating content, and he's built his business that way. He's got projects going on from Texas, where he lives, to I think we were talking about St. Louis a couple days ago. He was in Nashville not too long ago. He's looking at doing a mastermind here. So I figured it would be very appropriate to have him on the show to talk about how networking has really impacted and helped him build his business. So Austin, welcome to the show, man. That was obviously a very brief introduction, but kind of give us a little bit of your background. How'd you end up here?
Well, first of all, I just realized that I need intro music on everything I do from here. From here forward.
Yeah,
We
man.
definitely gotta do that. Yeah, so it's interesting. I spent 20 years in hotels and hospitality, and it's one of those things where, on the surface, when you're in that business, you know, obviously you're in the hospitality business, but I guess you don't realize how many conversations you have, how many people from different walks of life, especially when you're in a high-end hotel, so on and so on, that create this kind of, like what they say in like real estate, like the best investors are like dudes that had to cold call for a year.
Yeah.
Like what I realized is I cold called for like 20 years. Like,
Yeah.
cold conversations, people that have emotions, right? People that they might have the bad food, they might have a bad experience, and to be able to soften them up, right? Especially coming in the Airbnb space as well. Um, One of the jokes about me that's the funniest is the restaurant workers at the place would be like, "Hey, how long have you known that table? Like that just hugged you? Like you probably known him for a couple of years." I said, "No, I just met him 5 minutes ago."
I mean, that
And
is that is
one,
sales 101, right? Like being a master server. If you're a good server, you can be good at almost any sales job because you're dealing with so many
1000%.
emotions.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing, and I was editing the first couple chapters of our book today for our ghostwriter, and it was really interesting because I was thinking about it, and one of the big qualities that we talk about is meeting people where they are. And I'm an observer of people, right? And so at the end of the day, I look at what they're wearing. I look at little logos on their body. I look if they have, an Iowa Hawkeyes hat on. And I'm like, hey man, I got a buddy. He went to Iowa, man. He used to play quarterback, like blah blah blah. And like I might not know the guy a ton, but I know of a guy. And it's just like that initial conversation. They're like, hey, like they already feel safer, right? And they already feel secure. And just like kind of pointing out these little things. And like I was writing that chapter today and I was talking about like a lot of people are having surface conversations. You need to have 3 layer deep conversations. Like what like when somebody approaches you, right, in the field or in a networking event, how many times, like 30 times, are you getting the same fucking question? Like it's like okay, great, but like let's go a little different. Let's dig a little deeper. Let's scan their Instagram and let's see if they like, their kid likes soccer, right? And I was talking about like giving gifts to investors. And I said, what if you saw they like soccer, their kids in soccer, and when somebody that already has money, you need to create a space for experiences for them. That's all they care about.
Yep.
So what if you were to say, hey, you invested money with me. I bought tickets to the US Mexico game for you to take your kids. That might cost you 150 bucks, 200 bucks, but that experience to that investor or the guy that gave you money is priceless.
So a buddy of mine, John Ruhlin, who wrote the book Giftology, he was a big fan of EO Fire, Entrepreneur on Fire by John Lee Dumas, which is one of the most prolific podcasts in the arena. And he heard JLD say on one of his shows something about how much he wanted a sauna or something like that. Like he'd always wanted a sauna. And so John bought and shipped a sauna to Puerto Rico for JLD and just said, "Hey man, love the show. Here's my number if you ever want to catch up sometime." And so of course JLD calls him. I think he ended up having him on the show. But like, dude, Yeah, of course. JLD could go out and buy it, right? Like if you listen to his podcast, he's making like 6 figures a month. But the fact that somebody bought it for him and shipped it to him in Puerto Rico creates such an experience. It's a memorable moment that he will always have. I think you're hitting it the nail on the head with that.
Well, yeah, and I always tell this story, and it's in the book, and it's probably one of my favorite memories. I went to go meet an investor out in Arizona, a dude that's doing a bunch of deals and has multiple businesses, multiple verticals. And I heard him talk on a mastermind call, and I was like, I got to meet this dude. And I saw on his Instagram he was coming to San Antonio. I didn't know his brother lived here. I was at work at the time. I looked through his stories. I realized that the photo on the back of the bar they were at was the bar that my buddy ran. And so it's like 1:30 in the afternoon. There's like 7 of them drinking. And I called him up and I said, hey, there's a guy in a red hat with a black shirt on and his wife's next to him. I said, buy him a round of drinks on me. And so my dude walks up to him and goes, Austin Linney just bought you these drinks. And homeboy calls me and he's like, dude, what the hell, bro? Where did that come from? He's like, get your ass over here. So I come over there, we hang out, we talk for a minute. I let them go do their thing. And I said, hey, I want to go to Arizona. And he says, okay, I'll see you in October. And he cancels on me like 2 weeks before. He's like, I'm too busy. Okay, November, cancels. December, cancels. And I get frustrated. And so on my birthday, it was like December 9th, I bought tickets to Arizona on January 6th. And I said, I'll be there from 5 a.m. to 6 o'clock at night on, January 6th, figured out. And I just sent him the plane tickets. And he was like, okay, I just cleared my schedule. You're riding with me. So I flew in. I met him at the gym at 5 a.m. We start working out. And I went back to the hotel. And what I did is I found out that he loved old Cadillacs. And so what I did is I found an antique rental place and I rented a 1966 Cadillac DeVille with suicide doors on 20s. It cost me $160. I pulled up to his office and he literally almost shit himself. He thought he like started crying. It was like the coolest thing in the world. And he said, why would you do this? And I said, because when I leave here today, you need to know that Austin Linney was here. And he's told that story 90 times over. And my question to you is, he gets 9 requests a day to go hang out with him. What are you going to do to leave an impression? What are you going to do? Because here's what people don't understand. So they're so worried about the next guy they're going to network with. You really only need one guy. Yeah. One guy can open up every door that you need. That's where we have it all twisted. It's the same thing with the way people work. It's the same thing with the way people network. It's not time in the field. It's how potent are you.
So when did you meet him?
That was January 6th, 2 months before COVID, so last year.
Have you guys done anything yet?
I literally, at that meetup that day, I met like 9 investors. They're all my friends. I've had them on other podcasts. We're talking business deals together, in the future and all sorts of stuff. And I've helped some of them and vice versa. So, and then I went to a meetup in Michigan randomly. And they were like, what the hell is the Texan guy doing here? And I met like 7 people that I talk to on a daily basis from there. So, every time I've gone somewhere with an open mind and the opportunity to meet somebody, I've met somebody that has become a friend or a business partner. But that's not the craziest story. The craziest story is, and I've even broken up with it, so it's even more random. But it was a Saturday, and I didn't have anything going on, and I called a buddy in Toronto who's a friend of mine who were writing the book together. And I said, hey, what are you doing? And he goes, nothing. I said, let's jump on Clubhouse. He goes, what do you want to talk about? I don't care. Okay, great. So we jump on. All of a sudden, we start getting these investors from all over the country. And this guy pops on randomly. Like the title of the group was like, you miss the shots you don't take or something. It was so stupid, And so he's like, and so there was like 4 people in the room. We get to talking. And I was like, dude, I like the cut of your suit, bro. Like I could tell this dude was with it, bro. Like he starts quoting Napoleon Hill, and I'm like, okay, I like this guy. And so I'm like, we need to have you on the podcast. So I have him on the podcast, and he's like, hey, I told him my business idea that we just came up with the week before. And he's like, you need to meet my brother. He lives in Dallas. So literally like 2 days later, I drive up to Dallas. I sit in his house for 4 hours. It's our brand new business partner, money guy in our construction company. 3 weeks.
I mean,
And
that is the power of doing it right, man.
they've been in the real estate space for 20 years. And he's like, dude, I love everything you're about. Let's go to work. I had calls with both of them today. It's an honor to be a part of a business deal with two brothers. To be honest with you, in about a month, we're probably going to have about 5 businesses together.
I mean, knowing you, that doesn't surprise me one bit.
Well, I mean, they're all verticals within inside the
Yeah.
real estate industry. So it's not anything that's a stretch. It's just necessary. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look, I do the same thing. I think vertically integrating into real estate is the best thing I've ever done for myself because there's multiple streams of income from one deal, right? And that's exactly what you're focused on. So, talk to me about lessons that you learned from serving. I mean, how did that teach you, or what did that teach you about how people act? I mean, because that's the biggest
Well,
part about networking.
I tell you what, there's a lot of things, and I'll just kind of run through them here. The number one thing I learned, God bless Austin, Texas, the number one thing I learned is that you better not judge anybody. And I mean that so seriously. I cannot tell you the amount of people that are wearing flip flops and sweatpants that have black AMX cards that I've waited on. I can't tell you. And it was that town that taught me that, one of the greatest quotes the dudes from Dallas that we're in business with that said, what happens in life is the guys wearing suits work for the billionaires wearing sweatpants.
Yeah.
And it's a very common theme. And so you can't judge anybody. Second thing is everybody has something to teach you. Every time that something goes against you is an opportunity to get better. And the second thing I learned is that there's no greater thrill in the entire world than taking somebody who has a really bad attitude and making them smile. And
I
it
love
can be
that.
as something, well, it can be as something as simple as like, man, wow, you must have had a rough day. Like, and that little smile and that little smirk, because here's what people don't realize about humans. We're moving so quickly that they don't even realize that they're being an asshole. Like
Yeah.
they're just like, maybe they're just operating. They had a bad day, and so if you just stop them and say like, "Hey, man, must have been a rough one," and they're like, "Whoa, like shit," like somebody sees, and I'm even guilty of it, right? But what we have to do is we have to realize that on the other end of a phone, and the other end of a car, and the other end of a social media account, there's a human. And I think that in this technology age that we forget, and we're so creating stories around why this person didn't get back to me or why they didn't return my email. I got a great idea. They're busy. It's not a crime. Like, but what we do is we attach emotion to why they didn't respond to us instead of just letting it be what it'll be.
Yeah, I mean that's very true. You're projecting your own insecurities onto other people. Is basically what that ends up being. What is I mean, how did you discover that networking was your thing, right? Because I mean that's obviously like you're now a real estate coach. You've got a bunch of clients across the country that you help and you're helping them with networking. You're helping them with mindset. You're helping them, with all of this stuff. I mean, how did you discover that that was something that you were talented at?
It was really odd that I could, when I got in the high end like bartending scene, I started making like really good money, like big tips. And you're like, why would somebody give me like $100 tip on like a couple drinks? Like, right? They're just happy to have the conversation, they're happy to have the story. And what I realized is that I guess what's interesting is that when you're living your gift, right? It seems so easy to you, and then it seems so hard for everybody else. And so when people start pointing out, like when you're getting into higher level masterminds and stuff, like, dude, you're really good at this. Like, how do you know so many people? And I'm like, well, it's just really easy. I don't understand. And they're like, no, 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 it doesn't work that way. Like, but I think more importantly, what I realize is the more I share my story and the more I introduce people, the more they're more inclined to do like I'm adding value to them, so they're adding value to me. But here's the interesting thing, and for anybody out there that's a young hustler who is a networker, this skill is the hardest skill to monetize ever. And I have been frustrated for many a years, and I've reached out to people that I highly respect, and they said, just keep adding value. Just keep doing it. I promise you, you'll find your space. But I think this is the most important quality. If you're a sales guy or a networker or a marketing guy, just do that. You're not an operator. I think for many years I lied to myself that I was an operator, and I think that was the default mechanism to me getting in a space where I wasn't comfortable and then failing at whatever I was doing. And so now, like I'm doing consulting roles or I'm part owners of companies, but I just stay in my lane. Like I literally don't even care how we're building the house. I literally don't give a shit. It doesn't matter to me whatsoever. Like we're building the factory. Okay, great. I don't care. Like it doesn't matter because all I do is sell. And so if I operate from a space where I'm comfortable, then I can be at the best version of myself.
Man, the day that you figure out what you're good at and you decide to stick to that and stop messing around with everything that you're constantly having to work on to improve, that's when you're going to start making money in this business. I mean, the year that we started turning clients away at the brokerage because we were too busy, the year that we started saying, "Hey, we're not doing multifamily anymore because it's not what we do." You know, we stopped taking projects that were 15 minutes outside of downtown because we didn't even want to focus on them anymore. We started making, we tripled, quadrupled, 5x our income year over year because we started niching down and focusing on what we were good at. And I think that it's so easy as a new real estate entrepreneur to just take on everything, right? Because you just want to make money. But I think you're right, man. I mean, finding what you're good at and just accepting it.
Well, because then you position yourself as a commodity,
Yeah.
not an expert, right? And so I had a great friend of mine tell me, right? He's a multifamily guy. He said, Austin, I'm going to teach you something. He goes, you say yes way too much. He goes, every no that you say, you get more and more expensive. But here's what's interesting,
Yeah.
right? And this is true. Here's what's interesting, and this happens in the coaching space all the time. If I take on clients that I can't serve them in the highest power of, like, meaning we don't fit, and I'm just taking clients to take clients, or I'm buying properties to buy properties, then I dilute the value of my service. And so a lot of people buy unit counts because they want to get to a place where they can talk about it, where they can pump out their chest. And all I care about is your bottom line. That's with your personal life and that's with your business life. And too many times that we do things that don't serve us because we're trying to project an outdoor, like an outer ego thing. And we got to make sure that when we're connecting and networking and meeting people, that we're coming from a place of, I don't know, actual human contact and not just worried about what this guy can do for you. Because here's what's interesting. I'll tell a story. And I just heard it yesterday. He's a good killer investor here in Austin area, just a savage. I mean, he does so many things. He is doing a project right now of 100 homes, brand new homes, that they're holding every one of them to rent out in the Austin market. They're walking into 100K worth of equity. Do you know who he's in business with? The guys that he started with as an adjuster out of college in Sacramento, like 15 years ago. Like, who would have thought that 15 years later, you can't burn bridges. You don't know who's coming around. It's a
It's too
long
small of a
life.
world.
Yeah, exactly.
Man, I mean
Yeah, exactly.
that's amazing. So for those of y'all that are joining us live, if you want to ask Austin any questions on networking, feel free to jump in the live chat, or it doesn't necessarily have to be about networking. What's up?
But I want to say something very interesting, and I learned this from the people that I partner with in my Airbnb space, and one of the great humans that work for me. If you're not a good networker, then come be in business with me, and you don't have to be. Like, literally, My business partner loves tax code and spreadsheets. He's not like a guy that wants to go out and meet a lot of people. And you know what he said to me? He went, oh, I don't have to go out and be this crazy networker because you're my guy now. Now I have the best networker. And he was like, I literally feel like I just got 2 years of my life back.
Man, that's actually a takeaway that I was not expecting to have in this conversation at all. Is that, be a little introspective. You may not be a networker, and that's fine. Quit trying to force yourself to network if that's not your thing. Go out and, again, we were talking about focusing on what you're good at, and as far as networking goes, if you're not good at networking and you don't want to become that person because it's not your strength, go do anything else. Find a guy like Austin that is the networker that's going out. That's kind of what I do, right? Like, I go out and I find the deals and I run them, and I bring in the guys that do all the capital. I mean, it just makes so much sense because it's not what I'm good at. It's not what I want to do. I want to focus on going out and meeting people because I love having those conversations.
Well, one of the great techniques we can use, and I learned this from a couple of my friends, is let's say you have a business or let's say you're an investor. And let's say you put in a spreadsheet everything that you do all day, and you put a value dollar amount to it. Let's say meeting new people. Let's say whatever that is, underwriting deals. And you put yourself in the spots that make you the most money. And if networking is not those guys, like let's say that you're a great underwriter and you find deals left and right, or you're like a great deal getter, but you can't raise the money, you can't find the contractors, you have no design vision, you don't an architect. Well, guess what? All you got to do is call it me or Tyler, and we'll come in as a consultant or part owner, and we'll bring you all those people. It doesn't matter. You don't have to do everything.
Yeah, the guys that try and do projects all by themselves is always really interesting to me. I mean, I feel like you can scale so much faster when you have a good, well-built team, um, because everybody has different strengths. Andy on my team, he is incredible at underwriting. I'm decent at underwriting. I know what the hell I'm doing, but that doesn't mean that I'm the best one in the room. And I brought in Andy because he's the best one in the room. Jordan, my project manager, he is the most organized person I have ever seen. I am not, right? And so to have some, like, you want
If
that.
I'm organizing a project, we're gonna lose all the money.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And, like, but that's the great thing. Like, that's when you start making all the money. You start realizing, like, no, I'm not going to go screw up my relationships because I'm going to take on something that I know that I should never do in the first place because of my ego or because I want to make money or I think it'll make me money.
Yeah, and I think we have, and it's really counterintuitive. I place I play such devil lines, like I cover both spots because at one time I'm saying be aggressive, and at the spot I'm saying live your life, and at the spot I'm saying do this. But what I'm trying to make sure, and what these talks are, is just a different look on if you're working and operating in the right direction, right? And you don't know till you don't know. But like a guy last night, he was like, I stayed up all night because after our talk, like I don't know if I've been wasting 4 months of my life. And I'm like, no, 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 like you're young, it's cool. Like I didn't mean to like spark that in you, but all I'm trying to get you to do is like take a different tack at it because it truly is that comment. You can't see the forest through the trees, right? It truly is that situation when you're in it, right? And here's what's interesting, and tell me if you've ever felt this, and anybody that's out there. When my Airbnb business, one of my second ones was I knew I was going to get out, and I knew I was going to lose some money, and I knew I wanted to walk away. There was such an uneasy feeling, right? Of like, dude, this is not great. Like, I'm very unhappy. I don't like my position. I don't like the responsibilities I have. I'm getting yelled at all the time, like by my business partners. And the moment I decided to leave, granted I lost 26,000, but the moment that I decided to leave, it felt I literally went because I felt like I wasn't living a lie anymore. And it was the first time in about a year and a half I felt free. And it was crazy to me how much that was pressing up against me being my normal self.
Yeah, I mean it's you trying to be something you're not, and that's always going to impede you from accomplishing what you should. Austin, let's get into some highly actionable steps that people can take to network in real estate in order to raise capital, in order to find deals, in order to, do deals? I mean, just in general, what are some highly actionable steps? What are some groups that people can join, some, things that people can do to make that happen?
I think the first thing you can do online, easy from your bedroom, is Facebook groups. Get in, get active, add value, be a resource to people. One of the ways that I look at it recently that I've kind of earmarked is like treat the people that you need in the real estate space as a baseball team. Okay, you got your starting pitchers, you got your catchers, you got your shortstop, and what you do is you fill out your team. And let's say it's Sunday and you're sitting around and you're like, you know what? I need to meet a lawyer and I need to meet a title rep this week. Okay. Well, that's when you meet those people, you stop. Like you met those people. And guess what? They're your people until they let you down and maybe you replace them with somebody else. Right. But you go out and you don't have to make your whole team in a week. You can make it in 6 months or a year. But just have those people in your back pocket where you're adding value to them. The next thing I would do is let's say you want to meet somebody. Let's say you really want to meet somebody. You like the way he talks. You like the way he speaks. I would go listen to about 4 or 5 of his podcasts. I would pour out an obscure comment or an obscure thought, and I would DM that person. And then I would say, man, I really like how you frame the conversation around so and so, so and so. And that way they know that you spent a time listening to their stuff instead of just, hey, I like what you do. My favorite thing that people do on LinkedIn is freaking DM me in the messages and go, I love what you're doing around Construct Your Life. No, you don't, because you haven't listened to it at all.
You have no idea what you're talking about.
You really need to make sure that you're pointing out something that they know if you did it, then they would actually know that you took time to earn the right. I mean, I've got to a point, and I don't do this for everybody, but, my mentor basically talks about putting obstacles in front of people to meet you. Like, if you really want to meet me, then read me this book, read this book and give me a book report. Like that's the real thing that people do. And so you need to make sure that you're adding value to them and actually taking time to consume what they're putting out.
I've done that before, right? Because I'm busy and I have people reaching out to me all the time wanting to ask, me out to coffee or for drinks or to meet up over lunch because they want to talk to me about real estate or something like that. And I do the same thing. It's like, hey, follow up with me in 30 days. And if they follow up with me in 30 days, it's a hands down, like, yes, you said that you were going to follow up with me in 30 days. I will absolutely grab, drinks with you. Because to me, it shows that like they were actually committed enough to wanting to have that meeting that I should respect their willingness to do that as well. I think you're onto something there. Kareem is jumping in the live chat with living a life of authenticity is true freedom. That's so true. Just be yourself. I mean, that works really well.
I couldn't agree more. Just be yourself. And one of my old bosses in private equity told me this: never lie about where you are. Like he's like,
yeah.
If you've never done a deal, tell him you never done a deal. Dude, that guy that's probably done 3,000 deals probably reaches out to you and is like, dude, I remember when I didn't have a deal. He's happy to help. But if you lie about it and he finds out about it, you're done.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to come off that way. I mean, people are actually more willing to help somebody that has no idea what they're doing than somebody that they can always kind of tell.
It's my favorite thing to do ever. Like, I love to see people get their first property.
Well, that's what I tell my junior brokers because, they get a little nervous. They're like, well, I don't really know what I'm, 100% about what I'm talking about right now. And I'm like, well, that's perfect. When you're talking to other brokers about a tenant, just say, look, hey, honestly, this is my first tenant rep deal. Like, I don't know. Just they'll walk you through it because they want to get the deal done too, right? So, I mean, that's actually a great card to play. Okay, so we've got social media, we've got digging into somebody's past and being very intentional. What are some other steps that people can take?
Well, I think at the end of the day, this is going to be counterintuitive for the whole conversation. Is you might not need to meet anybody. Like, and I know that sounds like crazy, but I want you to think of it in this way: are you talking too much and not doing enough? Like, we put this social capital on like, well, I know this person and I know all that, but do you really need that many people? Like, I literally sat back a while back and I was like, I think I'm good. Like, I think I got my team, I got my mentors, I got my money people, I've got developers, and obviously I'm not done, but what I'm saying is, there, especially in this day and age, the networking piece can be the thing that everybody gloms onto, when the actual thing that'll get you to exactly where you need to go are pure results.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense, man. I mean,
Yeah.
just being intentional about what you're looking to accomplish. I mean, sometimes, yeah, it's like the anti-networking. Maybe that makes sense. Who should you
Yeah.
not surround yourself
Because
with?
because at the end of the day, think about it this way: the people that are in your life and doing deals with you, like the title agent, the lawyer that's helping you. Let's say your junior brokers. Let's say your clients, right? There's a book I read that said that like 80% of the deals that they do are with like your six top clients, and
Yeah.
we're over here spending all this time on these people that aren't going to do a deal, and those guys that you did a deal with are probably, they have friends that do deals, and so are they fully serviced? Are you making sure that they're taken care of? Are you circling back with them? And it's not always about the next client, it's about the ones that you already serve that have the clients that you need.
That's very true. I mean, we've got several clients that we've done multiple developments with. And it's really tough to go out and land another development as a property manager or as a broker. So why not keep that client happy? I mean, that one client, because they gave us a shot a few years ago, we've now done 3 mixed use developments with them. I mean, that's invaluable, right? And it's tough. We haven't done that with any other client. It's tough to get those. So yeah, I mean, it's almost you almost, once you find the right group or groups or people, you almost want to continue just networking with them. How can you keep them happy? What is something special that you can do to just stay with them? Because you guys can ride that
Well,
wave together.
I'll do a perfect example. These two guys out of Dallas that met me, like, they love me. They're like, dude, you brought us like a construction deal. You're bringing us like real estate deals. There's a health insurance play we're doing with one of my coaching clients. He's like, but here's what they don't. Here's what people don't understand. They don't have time. They don't. They're running companies. They don't have time to source this stuff. But if I hand it to them on a platter and take care of them, they're going to take care of me.
Yeah.
And so the deal is this: you go to people that close. There's a lot of people that talk out there. You go to dudes that can actually pull the hammer down. So when you got some, but here's the kicker: you got to keep the lines in the water. Not everything closes, especially with these big deals. We just had a deal fall. We thought a deal was a home run today. We have to back off of it, and like I'm already counting the numbers. I'm like, oh shoot, like, but it was just like, but like, guess what? There'll be another one tomorrow, and another
Yeah.
one tomorrow. And what I've had to teach myself over the years is my level of attachment to the outcome of the deal has nothing to do with anything. It's the process of who I become with inside the deal. That's the actual currency in the world.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, sometimes you learn more from going through the process of doing the deal than you do actually getting the deal. I mean, there are plenty of
Exactly.
deals that we failed on that, fell apart for whatever reason that actually gave us better learning lessons than anything else we ever had. Kareem, jumping back into the live chat with gratuitous networking often gives the illusion of progress. Great combo, gents. Appreciate that, Kareem. I mean, that's true. Like, honestly, people can. There's a very surface level of networking that we all know, right? Like, I'll tell you guys a story. So I was leaving a chamber event this one time, and I'm the kind of person that when I'm networking or I'm going to a networking event, I want to find 1 or 2 people and have meaningful conversations. I don't care if there's 4,000 people in the room. I want to find 1 or 2 people and have a meaningful conversation. And so I was walking out of the event and got onto the elevator with this residential agent who I had not talked to, had not had a conversation with. And he handed me a card and said, "Hey, if you're looking to buy any residential real estate, give me a call." And that was basically all that he said to me. He was just there to hand out cards. And, I said, "Thank you for the card." I mean, I was very polite about it. But, as soon as he was out of eye shot, like, I just threw the card away. right? Like I didn't know the guy. He didn't know that I was in commercial real estate. He didn't know that I had a real estate license because he didn't ask. Like he had no idea who he was talking to. And so it was just, I mean, that's that very surface level networking that you don't ever want to do because it was a meaningless conversation, right? If he had come in there and had a conversation with me for 30 minutes, I would have been like, you know what, this is the guy. I think if I'm ever going to buy a house, I'm going to call this guy. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. Well, my favorite quote, I heard it last week. I've used it 16 times since then. Is George Bernard Shaw says the problem with communication is the illusion that it's even taken place.
Yeah, because it's a bunch of people talking and nobody listening.
Yeah, I couldn't. Yeah, and at the end of the day, would you rather have two meaningful conversations or 100 business card conversations?
Too meaningful all day. Because like you were saying earlier, all it takes is that one right connection. You find that one right connection and now he's an investor in your deals. Like
And how you do that is you find the host of the event before the event starts and you ask them, who's the players? Who do I need to talk to? Boom, done.
yeah, they'll hook you up. They don't care. They want everybody to have a good time. So, all right, Austin, we're coming to a close here. What are some takeaways that you think people should have when it comes to networking in real estate?
Understand that it's a long game. Understand that you're gonna take some hits. You're gonna have some relationships that fail, but ultimately, at the end of the day, you just need to show up, keep putting in the work, and make sure that you're stepping through with pure care and making sure that you're building your life on legacy. And I think the most important thing, and this just comes from an overall point of view, the next best deal of your life is the next one next week. And what I mean by that is leave a little meat on the bone for everybody in every deal. And I promise you, you'll get exactly what you need in the end. Do not try to squeeze the juice on every deal, every relationship, every business transaction, because it will come up to bite you.
Yeah, I think that's such great advice. Okay, so you've got a mastermind. You're doing an event in Nashville. Tell us about that and tell us about how people can get in touch with you if they have any questions about networking in real estate.
So if you go on my Instagram, underneath the Linktree tab, there's the first tab is mastermind events. Put in your email address, you'll get updates. The mastermind event is May 14th and 15th, mainly the 15th. It's going to be somewhere in downtown or East Nashville. We're going to do it from 10 to 3:30, give or take. And we've got, to be honest with you, who knows who's going to show up to talk, but currently we have like 6 people. We've got Tyler, we've got Bruce Peterson, we've got Mike Travelli from ran underwriting genius CPA like wizard, and then we've got Ruben, my buddy who's a podcast marketing guy. We've got Cullen, one of my business partners who they manage 1,000 doors on a huge construction company. We've got Anthony Vicino, my co-host on my thing. They've got over 800 units. We've got Chris Grinzik coming up from Jacksonville. We've got boys coming in from Cleveland. Just basically some of the best operators of investing in the country in town to network and just meet everybody and have a great weekend. This is a no sales, just straight relaxed meetup. We're going to walk some of Tyler's projects. We're going to record some podcasts, and we're going to have a great time. I'm super pumped.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to you having that out here. So for those of you that are listening on the podcast, that is at Austin_Linney. Linney. That is his Instagram handle. That will also be in the show notes. Thank you guys for joining us live and asking your questions. If you are watching on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe so that you get more content. We're coming at you live 5:30 p.m. on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays Central. And if you're on the podcast, please don't forget to rate and review, and we will see you guys next week.